Growing up in England, a quirky journey through tradition, weather, and tea. Being born in England means growing up in one of the most historically rich, eccentrically polite, and unpredictably rainy countries in the world. On one hand, you've got centuries of royal tradition, iconic landmarks like Big Ben and Stonehenge, and an unparalleled love of tea. On the other hand, you've got a country where the weather is as moody as your favorite aunt, and the main form of expression is grumbling politely while complaining about said weather. Let's start with the national sports, moaning. It's not just a hobby in England, it's a lifestyle. Whether it's the weather, too cold, too hot, too rainy, too dry, the trains, late, overcrowded, overpriced, or the government, a bit of a mess, isn't it? There's always something to grumble about. But it's never too loud. After all, there's an unspoken rule that complaints must be shared in a low, resigned tone, as though we're all just trying to get through life without making a fuss. Speaking of the weather, it's a national obsession. There's always a conversation about it, no matter how trivial. A sunny day is treated like a national treasure. On a particularly warm summer's day, you'll find the whole country flocking to any available patch of grass, sunbathing for hours like they've never seen daylight before. On the flip side, rainy days are commonplace, and any excuse to mention typical British weather is taken. The weather forecast is something you watch as religiously as the news, though it's about as accurate as a guess at a horse race. The English are masters of queuing. It's not just a habit, it's a way of life. Whether it's at a bus stop, a pub, or the post office, you'll find the English lined up with all the grace of sheep, waiting to be herded. Don't you dare jump the queue, because breaking that sacred rule is practically treason. The food? Well, it's not gourmet, but it gets the job done. The English have a reputation for their beloved fish and chips, a comfort food that no one really understands until they've had it on a dreary day by the sea. And then there's the full English breakfast. Eggs, bacon, sausages, beans, mushrooms, black pudding, toast and tomatoes. Basically a day's worth of calories before noon. It's filling, it's greasy, and it's definitely the best cure for a hangover. But don't even think about touching pineapple for pizza. That's where the line is drawn. Let's talk about pubs, because England's love for them is legendary. No matter how cold or wet it is outside, you can always count on the warmth of a local pub to embrace you with the promise of hearty ale, greasy snacks, and warm, slightly uncomfortable wooden chairs. The pub isn't just a place to drink, it's where you share your frustrations, argue about politics, and ignore the awkward silence that follows when someone tries to bring up actual politics. The pub is sacred, and if you don't know where your local is, you're probably not English. England's love for tradition runs deep, which is why it's a land full of bizarre customs like afternoon tea, royal weddings, and the inexplicable desire to sit down and watch an entire 90-minute football match, even if you know your team is bound to lose. Even if you don't like football, soccer, you've learned to pretend to care because it's simply what you do. The Queen's birthday, a bank holiday, the changing of the guard, a reason for tourists to block the roads. It doesn't matter if it's practical or necessary. Tradition is tradition. Let's not forget the political scene, where things tend to be as chaotic as the weather. Political debates in England are like an endless series of Shakespearean tragedies, dramatic, full of intrigue, and mostly confusing. But no matter how muddled the politics get, the English are always polite about it. Everything is discussed with that signature, dry humor and an impressive ability to pretend that they've got it all figured out, even when they clearly don't. And then there's the monarchy, which serves as both a source of fascination and endless tabloid fodder. The Queen's reign has become the backbone of the country, with every royal family member providing a new drama for the media to feast on. There's nothing quite like the excitement of a royal wedding or the gentle sigh of relief when the royal corgis make an appearance. As for crime, England's take on it is fascinatingly polite. The English are so good at avoiding confrontation that most crime is committed in a way that leaves you apologizing to the criminal. Sorry to trouble you, but could you kindly return my phone, please? Petty thefts happen, of course, but you're more likely to be pickpocketed while having an in-depth conversation about how bad the weather has been lately. Crime's an inconvenience, but no one's in a hurry to cause a scene about it. But despite all the rain, the endless queues, and the endless complaints, being born in England means learning to laugh at it all. It's a place where sarcasm and dry humor are second languages and where you can still enjoy a good chat, even if it's about nothing in particular. The English may moan, but they do it with style, flair, and a cup of tea in hand. Because at the end of the day, England might not be perfect, but it's home, and no one else knows how to do it quite like the English.